Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we sit down with real investors, doing real deals, and talk about what's actually happening in today's market. Today, I'm joined by Gunnar Morgan, the founder of Doorstep Holdings. Gunnar operates across Southeast Georgia, Florida, and while his business is rooted in wholesaling, he built a strong operation around novations and joint ventures, especially in markets where surface level wholesaling just doesn't cut it anymore. Gunnar also has spent a lot of time in coaching space, giving him a front row seat to how industry teaches wholesaling and also how he stepped away from that to focus fully on operating at a higher level. So for guys who do not know much about Gunnar, can you give us a quick background about who you are and the most important question, how exactly did you get started in the wholesaling game?
Yeah. Thank you for the nice introduction. Yeah, so my name is Gunnar Morgan. I've been wholesaling right about 3.5 years now. It's been great, but I got my foot in the door in September of 2021. So during like the height of the pandemic, I saw a job ad on Instagram from a wholesaler that I had been following. And it's funny because like you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, you see wholesalers, you get interested, you follow them, you keep up with them and things like that. And I wanted to pursue wholesaling. I just didn't know how to do it. Like I got the 7 day free trial for PropStream and all that stuff. I just didn't know how to do it. So in September of 2021, I found a one of the wholesalers that I've been following. He posted a job ad that he was hiring, and it was for a lead manager. And I was like, "Oh, I've never been a manager in my life. What is this?" So I applied for the job, and come to find out, it wasn't like a management position. It was literally just like managing the leads. Like every lead that comes in, I was first point of contact. I set the appointment for the acquisition specialist. Once the deal closes on the back end, I get 5% commission. And that's how I got my foot in the door. And I worked for that company for a little over a year and a half.
Mhm.
Became one of the top lead managers in the company. Generated that company well over $500,000 in my first year. And yeah, it was fun. It was great. Like I learned how to talk to homeowners, and I wasn't a closer, like I wasn't an acquisition rep or anything like that. But it taught me the fundamentals. And while I was in it, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is something I really want to pursue. So that's how I got my foot in the door.
Amazing. And you mentioned that you joined wholesaling in 2021, right? So it's been close to 5 years.
Yeah.
So would you say the
Yeah.
wholesaling game has changed much in the past 5 years, or is it still the same?
Well, that's a good question. I think it depends on who you talk to. Like, obviously, the market has changed, right? But I
Mhm.
think the fundamentals of the business ultimately hasn't changed, right? You just get contracts and
Mhm.
sell the deals, right? You have to know how to get the contracts and you have to know how to sell the deals because maybe it's not as easy as selling a deal was in 2021 when, hedge funds were buying and everybody was buying over market value. But I think the fundamentals are still the same of, getting discounted deals and selling them.
Amazing. And you mentioned you like work across Southeast Georgia and Florida. Like, how would you describe those markets today? And like, why do like a lot of national wholesaling strategies fall apart over there?
Mm. So, I mean, the Southeast for us, I mean, it's just where I live, right? So, like Georgia, it's my backyard. When I was working for the company,
Mhm.
they only operated out of Georgia. So, while I was with them, I went on the side and started closing deals myself too, because I had learned how to do it. But I wanted to respect them. So, since they were in Georgia, I went down to Florida and was finding deals in Florida. So, that's the reason why I'm in Georgia and Florida at the same time,
Mhm.
because it's like what I'm used to. Like, those markets are very familiar to me. And then since we started running Facebook ads, like we wanted to lower our cost per lead and obviously generate as many leads as possible. So then we, go over to Texas because it has, a really good market. Most people say it's competitive, but I think, if you're good at finding deals and you're good at what you do, then you can get deals in a really competitive market. And then North Carolina, I have a dispo rep on my team who is in North Carolina. She has amazing connections in North Carolina and a really good buy box and oh, I'm sorry, a really good buyer clientele in North Carolina. So that's why we market up there too. So really just everywhere in the Southeast sort of is like our go-to. And I think when you compare that to people who run like a national campaign, like I couldn't go out and know Denver, Colorado's numbers off the top of my head if we got a lead in today. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that's why we keep it more southeast than going national.
Nice. And you mentioned you run Facebook ads, right? So do you have your own
Yeah.
team taking care of it, or do you outsource it to someone who's specialized in that area?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I first got started, I outsourced it, but then I started to realize a lot of these agencies, especially in wholesaling, they'll run the same ad for me that they run for you. They'll run the same ad for you that they run for John. They'll run the same ad for John and like it's fine, but if me and you are in the same market and a seller sees my ad and your ad, it's the same exact ad,
Yeah.
they're obviously, if it caught their attention once, it's going to catch their attention again. They're going to fill out my ad, they're going to fill out your ad. So in 2023, which was my first year solo by myself, all I did was run Facebook ads and I had a agency who ran the ads for me and I crushed it, dude. I think we spent $15,000 and made back 200 that year.
Wow.
So it was really good, but the problem was in 2024 it just fell completely. Our cost per lead shot through the roof.
Hmm.
And we weren't able to close how we were closing in 2023. And he started getting a lot of popularity and things like that. And I think all of that kind of factored into it. But I also always wanted to learn, like, if I could hire someone to bring the marketing in-house, how much more effective and how much more profitable could the company be?
Yep.
So going into 2026, I started hiring media buyers and things like that that are ultimately a little bit smarter than me with the Facebook ads, but can also teach me so that way I know. So whenever I go to hire someone else, they also know how to do it.
Amazing. So I know you lean heavily into innovations, right? So what's the first step which makes you take that strategy instead of like treating it like a regular wholesaling option?
I think one of the main things is just the amount of eyes that we can get on a single property on the MLS versus, blasting it out to a couple of buyers who may or may not be willing to purchase it. You know what I mean? And the way we kind of like to look at our business is we don't like to treat it as like an automated business, how most people say, but if we can automate the front end where leads are coming to us, and then also automate the back end where buyers see a property and they're coming to us on the back end too,
Hmm.
it just makes it so much more of an efficient business in my head. And I
Hmm.
feel like how it's been performing the past couple of months, it speaks for itself. Perfect.
I know you mentioned in the very beginning that you have a whole new different approach for innovations compared to how other wholesalers do it. Can you maybe give us a little bit more insight about that?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to innovations, right, like I think everybody has their own little strategy, their own little pitch, and honestly, like their own reason as to why they do it. The
Hmm.
only reason that we like to do novations, or we like to call it the MLS strategy, we don't even really call it novations. It's simply just to get more eyes on the property, like I said, right? So if we can max out the amount of people who see a property, we can max out the amount of offers we get, which in return, we can also sell these properties at a higher price rather than what a cash buyer would pay. So the way we do it is, people have their concierge service and things like that. We just tell the homeowner realistically, like, look, your property fits one or two options for us. We're
Hmm.
either going to buy the home, fix it and flip it, or we're going to buy the home and put a tenant in there.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, there has to be enough room for us to make money, right?
Yep.
And then every single time the sellers is going to say, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So here's what I asked from you. Would you allow us to go ahead and start our process of finding the tenant or the buyer that we're going to sell it to after we buy it from you? And they're like, okay, hold on. So you're buying my property for this price, but you're starting your process to find your buyer. Yeah, absolutely. So throughout the time, where we're looking to purchase your property, we're also going to be fielding our buyers on the back end. And every single time they're like, so you're buying it in 30 days for this price. We're like, yeah, because the due diligence section
Hmm.
allows us to, back out if we have to. But God forbid we do that, right? We never want to put a homeowner in a bad situation. Um, so every time we're just forcing revenue. That's all we're doing here because we're going to get their property listed on the MLS while we have a contract to purchase it. And there still has to be a good spread. The numbers have to make sense. You know, we can't pay over retail for it.
Hmm.
So we pitch it like that. And then when we get it on the MLS, now we start getting offers and we're very competitive on the MLS. So we try to list 10% under what the perfect comp compared to their house is
Yeah.
listed for. So, for example, we have a house right now in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, and there's a house right next door to it that's listed for 530, and we're a little bit higher than 10%, but I mean we're a little bit lower than 10%. We're listed at 520. So we're $10,000 under, but ours has a pool. Ours is like super nice, and we're getting so much more attention versus the other one because theirs doesn't have the features that ours have. But what we're doing is we're doing a price drop every single day to be ultra competitive. So at least we know where offers are coming in at. And, you know, if sometimes it may not work out where we get an offer where we want it to be, to where we make a good spread. So then we just go back to the seller and do a retrade and say, hey, this is what your property told us on the market. And as an investor, you're wanting us to purchase this property to then resell it or find a tenant, and we can't even resell it on the market. So therefore, we have to come back and do a retrade. And every single time, like I wouldn't say every time, but about 9 times out of 10, there it makes sense because they know we have to make money and we express that up front.
So pretty solid process you have there.
Yeah, it's a lot more open because we're telling them we're buying it because we have every intention to buy it. We have private money to be able to buy it once offers are coming in. For example, a deal we closed at the beginning of December, we didn't have a buyer lined up for it, but we had so much buyer demand at a
Hmm.
certain price that we just went ahead and bought the property after the due diligence was up. And after that, we had buyers lined up. We closed 6 days later because the demand was so high. So yeah, I mean, it works every time. Not every time, but a good amount of times out of 10, it works.
Nice. And you mentioned sorry, and you mentioned before that you used to be a real estate wholesaling coach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to coach, just recently, actually. I was coaching up until about like last week. I think a lot of people in the industry, it's like they close a couple of deals, they get a couple deals under their belt, and now they're this guru, right? They know everything about the market, they know how to do it, they know how to do novations. Maybe they've heard of it, maybe they do, maybe they don't. We don't know. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to be the guy who everybody runs to when they have a problem. But what I've come to realize is I've had a lot of people inquire about coaching, pay me for coaching, and even then, like it's all about the execution, right? You can go out and learn how to wholesale on YouTube. You don't have to have a coach, but everybody wants that accountability. And you know, if I post me, you know, in Miami on a yacht, or if I'm in a Lambo or wherever I am, right? They're like, oh my gosh, this guy is doing something that I want. It's like, okay, but you don't understand the amount of work that it took to get there. You don't understand like I was doing the work before I was ever, you know, out in Miami or wherever I am, right? Wherever I post. So I think that's where a lot of they see that and they immediately want to get to that, but they don't know what it takes to get there, right? So when you show them the work that they need to do in order to achieve what they want to achieve, that's when you start having some fall off and things like that. And that's why we only do JV deals now. We like if people have a deal and they want a JV, we'll JV with them because they don't have to put any money up front.
Hmm.
We'll cover everything for them to do a JV deal with us. But the coaching industry is just it's not my cup of tea anymore.
And is it mainly because, let's say, the students which the coaches coach on, like, do they blame them a lot in case if they're not able to get up to the growth which they want?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So imagine, you know, I'm posting real estate content. I'm telling you how you can make $30,000 on a deal, and maybe you have like 500 bucks in your bank account, and you're like, man, I want to make $30,000. Uh, so
But
you come
that's
to
not
me,
gonna
I
cut it,
tell
right?
you,
With $500, not just gonna cut it. It's just not gonna cut it at all.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So these people, they then want to learn how to make that $30,000 and you show them what it takes. And maybe they paid you up front for coaching, but now they don't want to do the work. They don't want to make the calls. They don't want to make the offers. They don't want to send the contracts. They don't want to know what's in the contract to be able to send it and things like that. So at that point, like you're the person that's going to get blamed and you're in the wrong because you didn't help them enough. But in reality, they just didn't put in the work.
And so what exactly is being taught in a lot of these coaching spaces? Like, you know what? Okay, it sounds really good on social media, but it breaks immediately in real life. Do you hear anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing, right? Like every bit of marketing works, and I feel like I fell victim to this when I first got started. Um, let's take cold calling, for example. Cold calling, I feel like has a bad rap for some people, but then for other people, it's like the best thing ever, you know? So I think a lot of people like might make 50 to 100 calls and say cold calling sucks because they only made 50 to 100 cold calls and got hung up on. And then you have people that make those 50 to 100 calls and they know it didn't work out. So then they make an additional 500 calls, 600 calls, 1,000 calls. And they're the ones who end up getting a deal. So I think every piece of marketing works. It's just the amount of people that can stick with something for a long period of time to actually see results before they start switching and jumping from cold calling to paid ads to Google ads, TikTok ads, trying to find the next best thing when there is no next best thing. Every single one of those options work. It's
Mhm.
just like which one can you stay consistent with for long enough to see it work?
Okay. I think that's like beautifully put. And
Thank you.
I think one of the last questions which I have is obviously you've been in the wholesaling game for quite a number of years, close to 5 years. What would you say is a one mindset or operational shift which a new wholesaler has to make sure that they don't get wiped out completely?
Spreadsheets, automations, KPIs, all of that is irrelevant. Like literally leave it alone. And I hear so many people talk about like, oh, you have to know how to make the perfect offer. You have to know how what your KPIs are and all this. Like all of that's irrelevant. You know, like the business is simple. Go out, find people who want to sell, get contracts signed, get deals sold. There's a lot of stuff in between that. Like I'm not saying that's the only part of the business. There's a lot of stuff in between that, but focus on the basics. And if you can focus on the basics day in and day out and not worry about making the most perfect offer ever and
Mhm.
just make the offer, see what happens, you're going to go a lot further than 100% of the people in this industry that are focused on, you know, getting their LLC set up, making the most perfect automation spreadsheet and all that stuff. So I think that's the main thing that a lot of people do in this industry when they first get started. They think it's cool. They think they're working hard, but at the end of the day, if you're not generating revenue, if you're not doing revenue generating task, which is making offers and getting contracts signed and selling deals, you're gonna get wiped out big time.
Amazing, Gunnar. I think that's one of the best advices which a lot of new wholesalers would love to hear. So for guys who want to get in touch with you, maybe get to know more about your journey, maybe get to maybe just to JV on certain deals with you.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best way to get in touch?
Probably Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram. You can just DM me. Instagram is just my first and last name. And yeah, I'm open to anything because I'm not someone who has anyone else in my DMs. It's only me. So if you have questions about wholesaling or you have a deal that you need help JVing or you have a deal that you want to get sold and you need help with, we'll JV with you and um, help you get it sold.
So I think Anna, that's amazing. I think a lot of our subscribers and a lot of our clients can get absolute value out of this. So this has been an amazing episode. I know you've poured a ton of value to your audience. Plus, you also took like a good understanding on what exactly it is to be a coach in the real estate market and also a lot of the drawbacks on the same coaching side as well.
Yeah.
So this has been an amazing as well as an eye opener for us. So tune in next week, guys, where we're going to be coming up with new guests, new episode, new content. Gunnar, once again, thank you so much for hopping on this call. With this,
Thank you.
we are going to be ending this conversation. Tune in next week, guys. Have a great day.